I fell for my boss and he pretended he didn't feel the same. Until HR almost fired us both. I never meant to fall in love with him. But the night I stayed late at the office, rain hammering against the windows, and found him standing in the dark conference room staring out at the city like he was carrying the weight of the world. That's when everything changed. That's when I realized I wasn't just attracted to my boss. I was dangerously, desperately in love with him. And the worst part? He knew. He'd always known. My name is Maya Chen, and 6 months ago I was just another ambitious marketing coordinator trying to make it in New York City. I was 26, drowning in student debt, living in a shoebox apartment in Brooklyn with 2 roommates who never cleaned the kitchen. I'd clawed my way through state school, worked 3 jobs to graduate, and landed at Sterling & Cross, one of the most prestigious advertising firms in Manhattan, through sheer determination and probably a little bit of luck. I thought I'd made it. I thought this was my chance. Then I met him. Ethan Cross. 34. 6'2". Dark hair that was always perfectly styled except for that one stubborn piece that fell across his forehead when he was frustrated. Steel gray eyes that could strip you bare with a single glance. He was the youngest partner in the firm's history, ruthlessly brilliant, and so emotionally unavailable that the office gossip mill had basically given up trying to figure out his personal life. My first day he walked past my desk without even looking at me. Just this presence. Expensive cologne, confident stride, the kind of energy that made the air feel electric. Someone whispered, "That's Ethan Cross. Don't screw up if you're on his team. He doesn't do second chances." I should have been intimidated. Instead, I felt this flutter in my chest that I immediately tried to crush. Because falling for your boss? That's not ambition. That's career suicide. For the first 3 months, I barely existed in his world. I worked on campaigns, attended meetings, stayed late, came in early. I was good at my job, really good, but I was invisible to him. Just another employee in a sea of faces. Until the Hastings account. It was a luxury hotel chain pitch worth $20 million and our team was drowning. The creative director had a family emergency, and suddenly we were 2 weeks from the presentation with half a concept and no cohesive vision. I was in the break room at 11 p.m. stress-eating vending machine chips, when Ethan appeared in the doorway. "You're Maya Chen," he said. Not a question. A statement. I nearly choked on a Dorito. "Yes, Mr. Cross." "Ethan." He loosened his tie, God, why was that so attractive? And leaned against the doorframe. "I've been watching your work on the Morrison campaign. Your market analysis was sharp. Really sharp." My heart was hammering. "Thank you. How do you feel about luxury travel demographics?" And just like that, I was pulled into his orbit. The next 2 weeks were insane. We worked 18-hour days, just the 2 of us most nights, building the Hastings pitch from the ground up. The office would empty out around 7, and then it would just be us in that glass-walled conference room, whiteboards covered in ideas, takeout containers piling up, the city glittering below us like a galaxy of possibilities. That's when I started to see him. The real him. The way he'd run his hand through his hair when he was thinking, destroying that perfect style. How he'd pace when he was working through a problem, talking to himself in this low murmur. The rare, devastating smile when we'd crack a particularly tough concept. The way he'd sometimes stop mid-sentence and just, look at me. Really look at me. Like he was seeing something he hadn't expected to find. "You're different," he said one night around 2 a.m. We were both exhausted, slumped in chairs, surrounded by mood boards and fabric samples. "Different how?" I asked, too tired to be careful. "Most people in this industry, they're good at mimicking what works. You actually think." He turned those gray eyes on me and I felt it like a physical touch. "You challenge me." I can't remember the last time someone challenged me. The air between us felt thick, charged. I should have said something professional, something safe. Instead I whispered, "Maybe you're usually too intimidating for people to try." His lips curved. Not quite a smile but close. "Am I intimidating you, Maya?" "Terrifying," I admitted. "But not in the way you think." Something flickered across his face. Surprise maybe, or recognition. For a moment I thought he might say something, might acknowledge this thing that was building between us like a storm. But then his phone buzzed and he looked away and the moment shattered. "We should call it a night," he said, his voice carefully neutral. Good work today. I went home and couldn't sleep, replaying that look, that almost moment, wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. We won the Hastings account. The pitch was flawless, and when the client signed, the entire office erupted in celebration. There was champagne, congratulations, people clapping me on the back. But all I could focus on was Ethan across the room, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. After the celebration died down, he called me into his office. Close the door, he said. My pulse jumped. The door clicked shut behind me, and suddenly we were alone in his space. All dark wood and leather and floor-to-ceiling windows with a view that cost more than I'd make in a year. You did exceptional work on this campaign, he said, staying behind his desk like it was a barrier. I'm moving you to senior strategist, effective immediately. 20% raise, your own office, direct report to me. I should have been ecstatic. This was everything I'd worked for. Thank you, Ethan. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep challenging me. His voice was rough, and when I looked up, he was gripping the edge of his desk like he needed to hold on to something. Say you'll keep being exactly who you are. I will, I breathed. For a long, suspended moment, we just stared at each other. The city noise faded away. It was just us and this invisible thread pulling tighter and tighter between us, and I swear I saw him lean forward slightly like he was about to. He cleared his throat and looked away. That's all. Congratulations, Maya. Dismissed. I left his office feeling like I'd been hollowed out, confused and frustrated and aching with something I couldn't name. That's when the torture really began. As now I worked directly with him. Now I was in his office 3 times a day, sitting across from him in meetings, traveling with him to client presentations. We were constantly together, and this thing between us, this unspoken, impossible thing, just kept growing. I'd catch him staring at me during conference calls, his jaw tight like he was fighting something. Our hands would brush reaching for the same document, and I'd feel electricity shoot up my arm. We'd be alone in his office late at night, and the tension would get so thick I could barely breathe. But he never crossed the line. Never said anything. Never touched me beyond what was absolutely professional. It was maddening. He's into you, my friend Jess said one happy hour. She worked in accounting, safely removed from the drama of the creative floor. Everyone can see it. He's my boss, I said, taking a long drink of my wine. Nothing can happen. Babe, something is already happening. You're both just too stubborn to admit it. He was right. God, she was so right. The breaking point came 3 months after my promotion at the annual company retreat in the Hamptons. Sterling and Cross went all out. A beachfront estate, catered meals, team-building activities that were thinly veiled excuses to drink and network. I'd been dreading it because it meant an entire weekend of being near Ethan in a non-work setting, watching him be charming and unreachable. The first night there was a bonfire on the beach. Everyone was drinking, laughing, the ocean crashing in the background. I was standing at the edge of the light watching the waves when I felt him before I saw him. Not much of a party person? Ethan asked, appearing beside me with 2 glasses of wine. He handed me one. Just needed some air. I took the glass, hyper-aware of how close he was standing. Close enough that I could feel the heat of him in the cool ocean breeze. Why, my name and his voice always did something to me. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you take this job? Really? He turned to face me fully, and in the firelight his eyes looked almost black. You could work anywhere. Why Sterling and Cross? I considered lying, giving him the professional answer. But there was something about the darkness, the wine, the sound of the ocean that made me reckless. I wanted to prove I belonged in this world, I said quietly. I wanted to show everyone who ever doubted me, including myself, that I could play in the big leagues. That I was more than just a scholarship kid from nowhere. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, you know what I see when I look at you? My breath caught. What? Someone who's already proven it. Someone who works twice as hard as anyone else in that office and makes it look effortless. Someone brilliant and driven and so goddamn stubborn she won't back down even when I'm being an ass in meetings. He took a step closer and my heart was racing now. I see someone who scares the hell out of me. I scare you, I whispered. Terrify me. His voice was rough, raw, in a way I'd never heard. Because you make me want things I can't have. Because every time you walk into my office, I have to remind myself of 100 reasons why I can't. He cut himself off, jaw clenching. Can't what? I pushed, emboldened by wine and moonlight and months of this building between us. This. He gestured between us and there was something almost desperate in his eyes. This. Whatever this is. I'm your boss, Maya. There are rules, regulations, power dynamics. I could destroy your career. Destroy mine. And I still. He stopped again, hands clenching into fists at his sides like he was physically holding himself back. You still what? My voice was barely audible over the waves. I still think about you constantly, he said, the words coming out like a confession torn from somewhere deep. I think about what it would be like to not have to hold back. To be able to touch you the way I want to touch you. To kiss you the way I've been imagining kissing you for 6 goddamn months. The world tilted. Everything I'd been feeling, everything I'd thought was one-sided, reflected back at me in his tortured expression. Ethan, I breathed. We can't, he said firmly, but he didn't move away. You know we can't. Then why did you tell me? There were tears in my eyes now, frustration and longing spilling over. Why would you say all that if we can't? Because I'm weak. He laughed bitterly. Because apparently I'm not as controlled as I thought. Because standing next to you and pretending I don't feel this is the hardest thing I've ever done, and tonight I just couldn't. We stood there, inches apart, the tension so electric I thought I might combust. I could see the war in his eyes. Desire versus responsibility, want versus rules. If things were different, I whispered. If I didn't work for you, would you? In a heartbeat, he said immediately, fiercely. Maya, if you weren't my employee, I would have asked you to dinner after the Hastings pitch. I would have told you how extraordinary you are. I would have kissed you that night in my office when you looked at me like you are right now. A tear rolled down my cheek. This isn't fair. I know. His thumb came up and caught the tear, and that small touch, the first real deliberate touch, sent shockwaves through me. God, I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for feeling something, I said, my hand coming up to cover his where it still touched my face. That's the one thing you don't have to apologize for. For a moment, one perfect suspended moment, I thought he might kiss me anyway. Rules be damned. I saw him lean in, saw his eyes drop to my lips, felt his breath on my face. Then someone called his name from the bonfire and he jerked back like he'd been burned. I have to go, he said, already backing away. I shouldn't have said any of that. I'm sorry, Maya. Ethan, wait. But he was already gone, disappearing into the darkness toward the house, leaving me alone on the beach with my racing heart and the echo of words that changed everything and nothing all at once. The next morning was excruciating. We had a team breakfast and Ethan was perfectly professional, barely looking at me. Like last night had never happened. Like he hadn't just confessed he thought about me constantly. I felt like I was going insane. After breakfast, I escaped to the pool area, needing space to think. I was sitting at the edge with my feet in the water when Jess found me. Okay, what happened? She asked, sitting down beside me. You look like someone died. I told her everything. The conversation, his confession, the almost kiss. By the end, she was staring at me with wide eyes. Holy shit, she breathed. Maya, well, what are you going to do? What can I do? I asked miserably. He's right. The power dynamic is real. Sure would have a field day. One of us would have to leave the company and I've worked too hard to get here. I won't throw away my career for a relationship that might not even work out. But what if it does? Jess asked softly. What if he's your person and you let him go because of some corporate policy? I didn't have an answer for that. The retreat ended and we went back to the office. Ethan was more distant than ever, barely speaking to me unless it was about work. It was like he'd locked whatever he felt into a vault and thrown away the key. I tried to do the same. Tried to focus on my projects, my career, my goals. Tried to forget the way his voice sounded when he said my name on that beach. It worked for about 3 weeks. Then came the Morgan pitch. Morgan Electronics was a massive account. A rebranding worth $40 million. The pitch was in Chicago and Ethan and I were leading the presentation. It meant 2 days together, flights, hotels, dinners with clients. I should have made an excuse to stay behind. Should have let someone else take the lead. But I didn't because I'm stubborn and self-destructive and apparently addicted to torturing myself. The presentation went perfectly. The clients loved us, loved the concept, and by the time dinner ended, we were basically assured the contract. Everyone was celebrating, drinking at the hotel bar, But I was exhausted and overwhelmed and needed to be alone. I went up to my room on the 14th floor, kicked off my heels, and was about to pour myself a drink from the minibar when there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole. Then, my pulse jumped. I opened the door and he was standing there still in his suit, tie loosened, expression tight. "We need to talk," he said. "Ethan, it's late. Please, Maya." And there was something in his voice, something raw and urgent, that made me step aside. He walked in and I closed the door behind him. Suddenly the room felt very small, the king bed between us seeming both too close and too far away. "What is it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He turned to face me and I saw it then. The cracks in his composure, the way his hands were shaking slightly as he ran them through his hair. "I can't do this anymore," he said. "I can't pretend I don't feel this. I can't stand next to you in meetings and act like I'm not dying to touch you. I can't watch other men flirt with you at office parties and not lose my mind. I can't." His voice broke. "I can't keep lying to myself that I'm strong enough to stay away from you." My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't care about the rules anymore." He took a step toward me and I could see the raw hunger in his eyes. "I don't care about HR or policies or what anyone thinks. I care about you. I'm in love with you, Maya, and pretending I'm not is killing me." The air left my lungs. You're in love with me?" "Completely. Desperately. Probably since that first night we worked late together and you argued with me about the Morrison campaign strategy and looked at me like I was a person, not just a title." Another step closer. "I know this is selfish. I know I'm risking your career, your reputation, everything you've worked for. And I know I should be stronger than this. But I'm not. I'm just a man who's so in love with you he can't see straight anymore." Tears were streaming down my face now. "Ethan. Tell me you don't feel it too," he said, his voice breaking. "Tell me I'm alone in this and I'll walk out that door right now and never mention it again. Tell me, Maya." I couldn't. Because I did feel it. Had felt it for months. This impossible, consuming thing that had taken root in my chest and grown until it crowded out everything else. "I can't tell you that," I whispered. "Because I love you too. God, I love you so much it terrifies me." Something in his expression cracked wide open. "Then what are we doing? Why are we fighting this?" "Because I'm scared," I admitted. "I'm scared of losing everything I've worked for. I'm scared of people thinking I slept my way to the top. I'm scared of us not working out and having to see you every day after. I'm scared." "I'm scared too," he interrupted, closing the distance between us until we were inches apart. "I'm terrified. But I'm more scared of never knowing what we could be. More scared of waking up in 10 years and regretting that I let you go because I was too much of a coward to fight for you." His hands came up to cup my face, so gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. "We'll figure it out, Maya. We'll talk to HR, we'll change reporting structures, whatever we need to do. But please, please don't ask me to walk away from you. Not when I've finally found something real." I was crying fully now, my hands gripping his wrists like an anchor. "If we do this, everything changes." "Everything's already changed," he said softly. "It changed 6 months ago when you walked into my life and turned it upside down. I just wasn't brave enough to admit it." And then he kissed me. God, he kissed me like he'd been starving for it, like I was air and he'd been drowning. His lips were soft and desperate and perfect, and I melted into him, 6 months of denial and longing and pent-up desire pouring out all at once. We stumbled backward, his hands in my hair, my arms around his neck, kissing like we might never get another chance. My back hit the wall and he pressed against me, his body solid and warm, and I made a sound I'd never made before. Something between a gasp and a plea. "Maya." He breathed against my lips, his forehead resting on mine. "Tell me to stop. Tell me this is a mistake." "Don't stop," I whispered. "Don't you dare stop." He groaned, and then his mouth was on my neck, my jaw trailing kisses that made my knees weak. His hands were everywhere but nowhere near enough, and I was pulling at his jacket, his tie, desperate to feel more of him. "We should talk about this," he murmured even as his lips found that spot behind my ear that made me gasp. "We should make a plan, figure out." "Ethan." "Yes." "Shut up and kiss me." He laughed, actually laughed, and the sound was so beautiful, so free that I fell in love with him all over again in that moment. What happened next was intense, emotional, everything I'd imagined and more. We took our time despite the urgency, despite the months of wanting. He touched me like I was precious, like he was memorizing every inch of me, and when we finally came together, it felt like coming home. Afterward, we lay tangled in the hotel sheets, the Chicago skyline glittering through the windows, and he held me like he was afraid I might disappear. "What are we going to do?" I asked softly, trailing my fingers over his chest. "First thing Monday we go to HR together," he said, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "We disclose the relationship, request a reporting structure change. You'll probably need to move to a different team." "I don't care," I interrupted. "As long as I get to keep you." He pulled back to look at me, and his eyes were so tender it made my chest ache. "You have me, Maya. You've had me for months. I'm yours completely. Even if this gets messy? Especially if it gets messy." He smiled, that rare, devastating smile. "You're worth it. We're worth it." I kissed him slow and deep and felt something settle in my chest. Something that felt like certainty, like rightness, like this impossible thing might actually work. We spent the rest of the weekend in that hotel room, talking and laughing and learning each other in ways that had nothing to do with work. He told me about his childhood, growing up with impossible expectations and learning to hide behind professionalism. I told him about my family, about being the first to go to college, about the weight of trying to prove yourself in a world that doesn't always want you to succeed. We were real with each other in a way I'd never been with anyone else. Sunday night, flying back to New York, he held my hand under the armrest where no one could see, and I felt this bubble of happiness that was almost painful. I should have known it couldn't last. Monday morning, I walked into Sterling and Cross with my head high and my heart full, ready to face whatever came next. Ethan and I had agreed to meet in his office at 9 to plan our HR conversation. But when I got off the elevator, the atmosphere was wrong. People were whispering, staring at me with expressions ranging from pity to judgment. My stomach dropped. Jess grabbed my arm before I could reach my office. "Maya, you need to see this." She pulled out her phone and showed me an email. It was from an anonymous company account, sent to the entire New York office at 7 a.m. The subject line: favoritism and ethics concerns regarding recent promotions. The email laid it all out. My promotion after the Hastings campaign, the trips to Chicago, the special treatment I'd been receiving from Ethan. It stopped just short of accusing us directly of a sexual relationship, but the implications were clear. It painted me as someone who'd slept her way to success and Ethan as someone who abused his power. I felt sick. "Who sent this?" I whispered. "No one knows." "But Maya." Jess looked at me with worried eyes. "HR wants to see both of you. Now." The walk to the HR office felt like a death march. Ethan was already there, sitting outside the director's office with an expression like carved stone. When he saw me, his eyes flickered with something: anger, guilt, determination, but he didn't say anything. Couldn't with everyone watching. We were called in separately. The HR director, Margaret Chin, no relation, was a severe woman in her 50s who'd seen it all. She gestured for me to sit and slid a file across the desk. "Miss Chin, are you currently in a romantic or sexual relationship with Ethan Cross?" My throat was dry. Yes. As of this weekend. We were planning to come to you this morning to disclose it and request a reporting structure change. This weekend. Her expression was unreadable. And before this weekend? Any relationship prior to the Chicago trip? No. Nothing physical. We maintained complete professionalism. But there were feelings, she pressed. Attraction. I hesitated. Lying would only make things worse. Yes. But we never acted on them until Chicago, after the pitch was complete. And we were going to handle this properly through official channels. The problem, Ms. Chin, is that this email raises questions about every decision Mr. Cross has made regarding your career. She opened the file and I saw my employment record. Your promotion. Your raise. Your inclusion on high-profile accounts. Now there's a question of whether those were merit-based or influenced by personal feelings. They were merit-based, I said firmly. I earned every opportunity I've gotten here. I don't doubt your abilities, she said, and her tone softened slightly. But perception matters. This email has created a situation where your professional credibility is now in question. And Mr. Cross's judgment is under review. My stomach twisted. What does that mean? It means we have to investigate. It means both of you are suspended pending the outcome. It means your working relationship needs to end immediately, regardless of the investigation results. Suspended. The word hit me like a physical blow. For how long? 2 weeks minimum. And Ms. Chin. She looked at me directly. I need you to understand the gravity of this. If we find any evidence that Mr. Cross's professional decisions regarding you were compromised by personal feelings, even unacted upon feelings, there will be serious consequences. For both of you. I left her office feeling like I was going to throw up. Ethan was waiting in the hallway, and from his expression, his meeting had gone similarly. Maya, he started. Not here, I said quietly. The walls had ears and I could feel people watching, judging. We left the building separately, met at a coffee shop 3 blocks away. The moment we were in a booth in the back corner, away from prying eyes, he grabbed my hands. I'm so sorry, he said, and he looked devastated. This is my fault. I should have been more careful, should have. Who sent that email? I interrupted. Who would do this? I don't know. Someone who noticed something, or someone who has a grudge, or... He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. It could be anyone. This is exactly what we were afraid of, I said, and I could hear the bitterness in my voice. People thinking I didn't earn my position. My credibility is destroyed. No, he said fiercely. Maya, you earned everything. Everyone who's worked with you knows that. This email is malicious gossip, nothing more. But the damage is done. Tears were threatening again. Even if the investigation clears us, people will always wonder. They'll always think. Then we fight it, he interrupted. We prove that your work speaks for itself. We show them that you're brilliant regardless of our relationship. By being suspended? I laughed bitterly. By being investigated like criminals? By not letting them break us. He squeezed my hands. Maya, look at me. Do you regret it? This weekend choosing us. Did I? Even with everything falling apart, even with my career hanging in the balance, did I regret finally having him? No, I admitted quietly. I don't regret it. Neither do I. His eyes were fierce. And I'm not going to let some anonymous coward destroy what we have or what you've built. We'll get through this. I wanted to believe him. But sitting there in that coffee shop, feeling the weight of judgment and suspicion and uncertainty, I wasn't sure we could. The next 2 weeks were hell. I was stuck in my apartment, unable to work, unable to even enter the building. My phone blew up with messages. Some supportive, some judgmental, some just curious. The office rumor mill was in overdrive, apparently, with theories ranging from the accurate to the absurd. Ethan and I couldn't be seen together publicly, which was its own kind of torture. He'd text me constantly, call me every night, but the distance felt wrong after finally having him close. The investigator wants to interview me tomorrow, he said on one of our nightly calls about a week in. They're going through every decision I made regarding your career with a microscope. Have they found anything? I asked, curled up on my couch in the dark. No. Because there's nothing to find. Maya, your work was exceptional before I ever developed feelings for you. The Hastings pitch succeeded because of your ideas, your strategy. Not because I had a crush on you. Did you? I asked softly. Have a crush on me even then? Pause. Then, yes. But I'm good at compartmentalizing. I would never have promoted you if you hadn't earned it. You know that, right? I do. But do they? That was the question that kept me up at night. What if the investigation decided that Ethan's judgment had been compromised? What if they made an example of us? What if I lost not just my job but my reputation? On day 10, Jess showed up at my apartment with wine and takeout. You look like death, she said, pushing past me into the living room. Thanks. That's helpful. I'm serious, Maya. You can't let this destroy you. She handed me a glass of wine and sat down. For what it's worth, most people in the office think this is bullshit. Your work speaks for itself. The only people who believe that email are the ones who were already jealous of you. And HR? What do they believe? She grimaced. Honestly, I think they're under pressure to make an example because of the public nature of the email. But from what I hear, the investigation isn't finding any actual impropriety. You might both come out of this okay. Right? I repeated hollowly. Maya, can I ask you something? She looked at me seriously. Is he worth it? Ethan Cross. Is he worth all this? I thought about the way he looked at me on that beach. The way he touched me in Chicago like I was something precious. The way he called me every night just to hear my voice, even though we couldn't be together. Yes, I said quietly. He's worth it. Even if I lose everything else, he's worth it. Jess smiled. Then fight for it. Don't let them make you ashamed of loving someone. On day 14, I got the call to come back to the office. Margaret Chin was there along with the investigator. A stern man named Richard who'd spent 2 weeks digging through every email, every meeting note, every decision point in my employment history. Ethan was there too, sitting on the opposite side of the room, and when our eyes met, I saw the same anxiety I felt reflected back at me. We've completed our investigation, Margaret began. And I'll be direct. We found no evidence that Mr. Cross's professional decisions regarding Ms. Chin were improperly influenced by personal feelings. Her promotion was merited based on performance. Her inclusion in high-profile projects was justified by results. And there was no physical relationship prior to the Chicago trip. Relief flooded through me so intensely I felt dizzy. However, Margaret continued, and my heart sank again. The appearance of impropriety is still a concern. And the company policy regarding relationships between supervisors and direct reports is clear. We're willing to change reporting structures, Ethan said immediately. Maya can move to a different team, report to someone else. We'll maintain complete professionalism in the office. That's one option, Margaret said slowly. But given the public nature of this situation, the company feels we need a cleaner break. What does that mean? I asked, though I was afraid I already knew. It means one of you needs to leave Sterling and Cross. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. No, Ethan said immediately. Absolutely not. Maya stays. I'll resign. Ethan, I started, but he cut me off. She's earned her place here. She's brilliant and talented and has years of growth ahead of her at this company. I won't let her career be collateral damage because I couldn't keep my feelings in check. Your career matters too, I argued, finding my voice. Your partner. You built this division. I'm not letting you throw that away for me. Then I'll leave, I said to Margaret. I can find another job. With this investigation on your record? Ethan's voice was sharp. With rumors following you? I know. I have connections, capital, options. You stay. That's not negotiable. We stared at each other across that HR office, both of us trying to sacrifice ourselves for the other, and I felt this surge of love so intense it hurt. Margaret looked between us with an expression that might have been sympathy. You don't have to decide right now. But one way or another, this reporting relationship needs to end within 30 days. We left her office in silence, took the elevator down together. The moment we were outside the building, Ethan pulled me into a side alley and just held me. We'll figure it out, he murmured into my hair. Whatever happens, we'll be okay. How? I asked, my voice muffled against his chest. How do we choose who loses everything? Maybe. He pulled back to look at me. Maybe neither of us has to. What do you mean? His eyes were bright with something that looked almost like excitement. I've been thinking about this for the past 2 weeks. Maya, what if we both left? I blinked. What? What if we started our own agency? The words came faster now, passionate. We're good together. Professionally, I mean. The Hastings campaign, Morgan, all of it. We work. What if we took that and built something that's ours? No corporate politics, no HR policies dictating our lives. Just us, our talent, and our vision. I stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Even that's insane. Starting an agency from scratch? The capital alone. I have capital, he said. I've been saving, investing. And I have clients who'd follow me. You have relationships too, connections. Maya, we could actually do this. Or we could crash and burn and lose everything. But even as I said it, something was stirring in my chest. Something that felt dangerously like hope. We could, he admitted. But isn't that better than one of us resigning in defeat? Better than spending the rest of our careers wondering what we could have built together. He cupped my face, his thumbs stroking my cheeks, and his eyes were so full of certainty it made me want to believe. I'm not asking you to decide right now, he said softly. But think about it. Really think about it. What if this isn't the end of our careers? What if it's the beginning of something better? I did think about it. For 3 days straight I thought about nothing else. I made spreadsheets. Budgets, client lists, competitive analyses. I called contacts, felt out interest, tested the waters. And slowly, the impossible started to feel possible. On the fourth day I called Ethan. "Let's do it," I said. "Let's start our own agency." The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. "You're serious?" His voice was rough with emotion. Terrified but serious. "You're right, we're good together. And maybe this is a chance to build something on our own terms, where we don't have to hide or apologize or choose between our careers and each other." "Ayachin, I love you so damn much." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. "I love you too. Now let's go burn down our careers and build something better from the ashes." The next 30 days were chaos. We both gave our resignations to Sterling and Cross. Ethan as a partner leaving to start his own venture, me as a senior strategist following suit. The office gossip exploded, of course. Some people thought we were crazy. Some were jealous. A few were actually supportive. "You're really doing this?" Jess asked over our goodbye lunch. "Starting an agency together?" "We really are." I squeezed her hand. "Wish me luck." "You don't need luck. You're both brilliant." She smiled. "But I'm going to miss you like crazy." "Then come with us," I said impulsively. "We'll need finance people. You're the best I know." Her eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. Jump ship with us. Let's build something amazing." She did. So did 3 other people from Sterling and Cross. A designer, a copywriter, and a junior strategist who'd been languishing under poor management. Suddenly we weren't just Ethan and me. We were a team. We found office space in Brooklyn. Nothing fancy, but it had good light and enough room to grow. We filed the paperwork, set up the LLC, designed our logo at 2 a.m. while eating pizza and laughing about how insane this all was. Chin Cross Creative Agency. "Your name first," Ethan had insisted. "Alphabetical order," I'd argued back. "Fine. But only because C comes before R." We landed our first client 3 weeks after opening. A boutique hotel chain that had seen our work on Hastings and wanted something similar. Then a tech startup. Then a restaurant group. Word spread that 2 rising stars from Sterling and Cross had gone out on their own, and suddenly we weren't just surviving. We were thriving. But it wasn't easy. We worked 100-hour weeks those first 6 months. We fought over creative direction, over budgets, over whose turn it was to make the coffee run. We learned to navigate being business partners and romantic partners simultaneously, which was complicated and messy and sometimes infuriating. You can't just unilaterally decide we're taking on a new client without discussing it with me. I yelled at him one night 3 months in when he'd accepted a project without consulting me first. "We needed the revenue," he yelled back. "And you were in back-to-back meetings all day. So send me a text. An email. You're my business partner, Ethan, not my boss anymore. We make decisions together." He stopped, ran his hand through his hair, that gesture I'd fallen in love with, and his anger deflated. "You're right. I'm sorry. Old habits. I'm used to just deciding things." "Well, getting used to it." I crossed my arms, still frustrated but softening. "We're equals here. That's the whole point." "I know." He walked over, pulled me into his arms despite my half-hearted resistance. "I'm still learning. Be patient with me." "Depends. Are you going to keep being an autocratic ass?" "I'll try my best not to be." He kissed my forehead. "Partners." "Partners," I agreed, finally hugging him back. "Both kinds." We learned. We grew. We figured out how to be colleagues during the day and lovers at night, how to separate business disagreements from personal ones, how to build something together that was stronger than what either of us could have built alone. A year after we left Sterling and Cross, we had 15 employees and a client roster that would have made our former company jealous. We'd been featured in Adweek. We'd won 2 industry awards. We were profitable and growing and happy. "Remember when HR told us one of us had to leave?" Ethan said one night. We were in our apartment. We'd moved in together 6 months ago, celebrating landing a massive account with a bottle of champagne. "Best worst thing that ever happened to us," I said, curled up against him on the couch. "You ever regret it? Leaving Sterling and Cross, taking this risk?" I thought about it honestly. The security we'd given up, the prestige, the easier path. Then I thought about what we'd built, not just the business but us. This partnership that was messy and complicated and real in ways that hiding in a corporate structure never could have been. Not for a second, I said. You. Never. He tilted my chin up, kissed me softly. Though I do sometimes wonder who sent that email. Does it matter anymore? I guess not. But I'd like to thank them. At my surprised look he smiled. If that email hadn't forced our hand, we might have spent years trying to navigate corporate policy, hiding what we felt, playing it safe. Instead it pushed us to take a leap. And look where we landed. He was right. That anonymous email, meant to destroy us, had actually freed us. It had forced us to choose ourselves, each other, and a different path than the one we'd been on. To whoever tried to ruin us, I said, raising my champagne glass. Thank you for the push. Ethan laughed and clinked his glass against mine. To new beginnings. To us. We drank and kissed and held each other as the city lights sparkled outside our window. Two people who'd fallen in love despite impossible odds, who'd lost everything and built something better, who'd turned scandal into success and rules into revolution. It wasn't the ending I'd imagined that first day at Sterling and Cross, standing at my desk while Ethan walked past without seeing me. It was better. Because sometimes the best love stories aren't about playing it safe. They're about taking the risk, facing the consequences, and building something real from the ruins of what you thought you wanted. And yeah, we still got looks sometimes when we told people our story. Judgment from people who thought we'd crossed a line. Skepticism from those who didn't believe in mixing business with pleasure. But we also got something else, each other. A partnership that was equal in every way. A love that had been tested by fire and come out stronger. And a company we'd built together from nothing, where we made our own rules and answered to no one but ourselves and our clients. I was in our office conference room, presenting to a potential client, a major automotive brand that would be our biggest account yet, when my phone buzzed with an urgent text from our receptionist. Someone from Sterling and Cross here to see you. Says it's important. I wrapped up the meeting, handed off to Ethan to close, and went to reception. Standing there, looking older and tired, was Margaret Chin from HR. Miss Chin, Maya, she corrected herself. Do you have a moment? We went to my office. My office in my company where no one could tell me who I could or couldn't love, and I waited. I owe you an apology, Margaret said finally. Both of you. I wanted to deliver it in person. For what? We found out who sent that email. It was Derek Morrison, one of our creative directors. He'd been passed over for partner in favor of Ethan, and he'd put in for the Hastings account but was rejected. Apparently he'd been watching you both for weeks, looking for anything he could use. I felt cold. Why are you telling me this now? Because he did it again. To another employee. And this time we caught him. She looked genuinely regretful. When we investigated his computer, we found evidence of the email he sent about you. Maya, there was never any merit to those allegations. It was pure malice from someone who felt slighted. We know that, I said quietly. We knew it then too. I know. But the company had to take it seriously, had to investigate. And in doing so, we lost two incredibly talented people. She paused. I'm here to offer you both your positions back. Enhanced titles, significant raises, complete autonomy. We want you back at Sterling and Cross. For a moment I couldn't speak. A year and a half ago this would have been everything I wanted. Vindication, restoration, proof that I'd earned my place. No. Thank you, I said. Truly. But no. She looked surprised. No. We've built something here that's ours. Something we're proud of. And we did it together as equals without having to hide or compromise or navigate corporate politics. I smiled. That anonymous email was the best thing that ever happened to us. It forced us to bet on ourselves. And we won. Margaret studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You know what? Good for you. Both of you. She stood. If you ever change your mind. We won't, I said, not unkindly. But I appreciate you coming. After she left, I found Ethan in his office. He looked up from his computer, saw my expression, and raised an eyebrow. Sterling and Cross wants us back, I said. And I said no. He smiled, that devastating smile that still made my heart skip, and held out his hand. I took it, let him pull me around the desk and into his lap. Good answer, he murmured against my neck. Though you could have consulted your business partner first. I laughed. Hey, let me rephrase. Sterling and Cross wants us back. What do you think we should do? I think, he said, his arms tightening around me, That we already have everything we need right here. Success on our terms. A team we believe in. And each other without having to hide or apologize. No regrets. Not a single one. He kissed me slow and deep. You. I thought about that first day, that first glimpse of him walking past my desk. The months of longing and denial. The night on the beach when everything changed. The investigation that almost destroyed us. The leap of faith we'd taken together. Just one, I said. He pulled back, concerned. What? That I didn't tell you I loved you sooner. I cupped his face, this man who'd risked everything for me, who'd built a life with me. That I wasted even a single day pretending I didn't. His eyes softened. We have now. We have all the days ahead. Yes, I agreed. We do. And we did. Days that were ours to build however we wanted, with no one to answer to but each other. Days filled with work we were passionate about, a team we were proud of, and a love that had survived scandal and judgment and impossible odds. People still asked sometimes, usually new clients who'd heard rumors. Is it true you two left Sterling and Cross because you were caught having an affair? And we'd look at each other and smile, and one of us would say, we left because we chose each other over playing it safe. Best decision we ever made. Guess it was true. That anonymous email meant to destroy us had actually set us free. Free to love openly. Free to build something extraordinary. Free to prove that sometimes the best success stories come from taking the biggest risks. We got married a year later. Small ceremony, just close friends and family with Jess as my maid of honor. Our team threw us a reception at the office, and we danced under string lights in the Brooklyn space we'd built from nothing. Mrs. Chin Cross, Ethan whispered as we swayed together. Miss Chin professionally, thank you very much, I corrected with a smile. We have a brand to maintain. Noted. Miss Chin professionally, Mrs. Chin Cross everywhere else. Deal. 5 years after leaving Sterling and Cross, Chin Cross Creative was one of the top boutique agencies in New York. We had 40 employees, a client list that included Fortune 500 companies, and a reputation for innovative work and ethical business practices. We also had something money couldn't buy. A partnership built on equality, respect, and love that had weathered every storm and come out stronger. Did we have to work harder to prove ourselves because of our story? Probably. Did we face judgment and skepticism and whispered gossip? Definitely. But we also had something most people never find. Professional success and personal happiness in perfect balance, with someone who understood both sides of us completely. The night we won our first major industry award, Agency of the Year, I stood on that stage with Ethan beside me, and I thought about that girl who'd walked into Sterling and Cross 5 years ago, desperate to prove herself, hiding her feelings, playing by everyone else's rules. She would have been terrified of this moment. Of being so public about a love that broke the rules. Of standing beside her partner. Both kinds, and claiming success they'd built together. But I wasn't her anymore. I was someone who'd learned that the best love stories don't follow the rules. They write their own. Thank you, I said into the microphone, Ethan's hand solid and real in mine. To everyone who believed in us when we were just a crazy idea. To the team that took a chance on two people with more ambition than sense. And to my partner. I looked at Ethan, saw my entire world reflected in his eyes. For teaching me that the biggest risk is not taking one at all. The applause was deafening, but all I heard was his whispered, I love you, as he pulled me close. We'd fallen in love despite impossible odds. We'd faced consequences that should have destroyed us. We'd taken a leap that everyone said was crazy. And we'd won. Not just the award, not just the success, not just the happy ending. We'd won each other. And everything else we'd built together from the ashes of what everyone told us was impossible. That was the real victory. The one that mattered most. So yeah, I fell for my boss. He pretended he didn't feel the same. HR almost fired us both. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because sometimes love doesn't follow the corporate handbook. Sometimes it doesn't play by the rules. Sometimes it costs you everything you thought you wanted. And sometimes, if you're brave enough to take the leap, it gives you back something better than you ever imagined. If you enjoyed this story of forbidden love, impossible odds, and two people who chose each other over everything else, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more love stories that touch the soul. Drop a comment below telling me, would you have taken the leap or played it safe? Let's discuss in the comments. The end.